And a bigger one.
Pop, pop, bang!
Are you expecting to knock out Anthony Joshua?
I aim to knock him out. I aim to knock out anyone I get in the ring with. So to go out there and, not put too many words out there, not make a fool of myself saying what I'm going to do. I don't want to make a fool like that. I want to go out, make a fool out of him by knocking him out. So, this is the game. This is the sport. This is really tests you as a person, as a man. So, yeah.
What do you make of his promoter, Eddie Hearn? Obviously, he talks a lot. We did the face-off the other day. What do you make of him when he's already, in his head, got a plan for AJ when it comes to Undisputed? So he's almost already looked over you and he's already thinking...
That's his man.
Yeah.
That's his man. That's carried him. He's carried his whole company, really. That's his man. You expect him to talk like that. I've got to break those plans and, we got plans too. I need to break his plans and, really go out there and take it from him.
If he beats me, you write me a check of £1. Yeah? If I beat him, you give me your purse against Tony and your TV rights. Yeah. No. So
don't worry about it.
The deal is there anyway.
Keep doing what you're doing. Good luck with your career.
Exactly.
Good luck with your career.
And I hope Tony knocks you out.
I know he won't.
Tony knocks you out. Tony knocks you out. I hope Tony knocks you out.
Hello, and welcome back to the number one podcast. Let me say that again, the number one. The number one right now. And why is it number one? Heritage. Yeah? There's lineage. You can go back in the archives and see I was right then and I'm right now. So anyone can enter the game if they want to, but you don't get to the Mount Rushmore without legacy. You can't buy your way into this. You can't engagement farm your way into this. It's grind. Let me say that again. The number one podcast in the sport where they're really going to con the fans again and tell you a welterweight can beat a middleweight. They're going to do that again to you. And I want to just say in advance, apologies for hearing all the atmospherics and the backgrounds and the dogs barking and the world happening outside. I can't do this with windows closed or I'm going to collapse. Absolutely cooking in here. 29 point something degrees. Top off, boobs out, belly hanging out. Feel like Tracy from Macclesfield. Killing it. But... let's go back to your regularly scheduled podcasting and let's talk some boxing. So it looks like we're heading towards Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn 2. So Eddie Hearn has never seen a cash cow that he can't milk to death, has he? Like in his head, he's like, we can do this 5 times because he has nothing left. So now Conor Benn's understanding what it's like to get pimped. Conor Benn's now understanding why the father of his biggest rival said this is a mug's game. Because they're just going to wheel Conor out to take another beating. And then they'll still tell you he's fresh enough to go down and challenge at 147. But now there's no one at 147. Boots has gone to 154, right? And how Conor can do 147 now? I don't think so. I do. I think this will be the end of Conor Benn. I don't think Conor Benn's boxing in 2 years' time. I think he'll be acting. They'll do all this other stuff. He'll do this. He'll do that. I think these two are fighting each other because they both know it's done. The gig is up. The hustle's over. The joke's up, really, if we look at it objectively. I think the only thing that brings a smile to my face is knowing that Boxer and Ben Shalom will just get a bit of bread. Because, now we're into a post-Boxer and Sky world and we have no idea what's coming next. Which is poor form by both sides, actually, because, you have to give notice, right? So everyone would have known this was coming, and therefore the plans should have been in place. And as fans, we're like, what are we paying our subscriptions for at this moment? But let's go back to this fight. If you think about what happened in the first fight, the drama over the weight, the drama over Eubank Sr., the drug cheat thing, the Piers Morgan stuff, you had so many kind of plot threads that came together in one fight. You're not going to find more. I don't want to sit there and watch Piers Morgan, what can you do differently, Conor? What can you do differently, Chris? That makes it a normal fight. The first fight wasn't. It was an event. Now, this is a normal fight that we got to judge on its fundamentals, right? Two guys who are brave as anything, but limited as anything. Essentially, this is a kind of level of boxing where it becomes hard to justify keeping Jake Paul out. because I don't think they're that much better than Jake Paul. I just don't. I would say Jake Paul's worked harder in his first 11 fights than Conor Benn did in his first 11 fights. Just my opinion. We could talk about whether his fights are fixed or not, but I'm talking from a training perspective, the people he got in, what he surrounded himself with, can't compare the two. Eubank Jr. is a little bit different, but not by far. And so I look at that fight and I just go, if you as a boxing fan are buying tickets for this, I can't really respect you as a boxing fan. If you as a boxing fan buy this on pay-per-view, I can't respect you as a boxing fan. If you as a boxing fan are jumping online and defending this fight, I can't respect you as a boxing fan. I don't respect your boxing intellect. I really don't. Because it comes down to one thing. What's important to you? Here are the things that are important to me. The biggest platforms are reserved for the fights that will define the sport. I said when the first fight was announced, I understood why it needed to happen. I even said, look, it needs all these elements to come together. We're going to tie a bow around this. And that's the end of the Eubank-Benn rivalry until another generation crops up. Park it off. Now that this is it's going to become like the Creed movies, right? We're just going to get 1, 2, 3, and they lose their impact. But Matchroom don't care. If they can get another 2 million out of this, fair enough. Listen, Conor's got debts to pay off, man. He's being pimped. You mean Conor Benn is literally twerking for the boxing fans right now. Hands on hips, back arch to the point where you wonder if he's got 3 extra bones in there, and he is popping that out. Because he has to. He has bills to pay. That's the sad thing. But Junior doesn't have to do anything because he knows Conor Benn needs him. So Junior's just chilling like, yeah, fight him, not fight him, whatever. But that's the sad thing. The sad thing is this is what boxing has become. And the fans allowed it because they were just like, well, as long as I get what I want out of it, I don't care. And I've said it before, I'm going to say this again. Fans do not care about the sport because you can't name anything boxing fans have done as a group that has changed the sport for the better. Not one. Oh, we hate drug cheats in boxing. Still buy the tickets. Oh, we hate poor judging in boxing. Still watch the fights. I'm tired of them dragging out fights for 20 years when we still watch the fights. I'm tired of watching guys fight each other when they're too old. Still watched Amir Khan versus Kell Brook. Boxing fans are idiots. I don't care how offended you get if you hear this. If your mindset is that, you're an idiot. You might be a genius in everything else. Yeah, we're just talking about boxing right now, boxing IQ. A lot of low vibrational, low boxing IQ people have opinions in the sport. And then when you challenge them, you go, okay, cool. So we've got a September date, and we're going to get Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. Mm-hmm. Who are we making? Who are we elevating in this fight? Nobody. So when these two guys ride off into the sunset, who's next? And then the same people will be the ones going, they're no stars anymore. And they're the ones who are like, yeah, I want 15 Beterbiev versus Bivol fights. Like, no, let this new breed come through. Let them face the fire. Why can't they? These are all questions that people don't ask. But this is a fight where I think Turkey's realized there aren't many big fights left to make. So he's now like, yeah, let's just recycle some stuff now. Because he's tried, well, and I'm going to give him his due. He's tried to make the big fights. He's tried to create moments, right? And then that Times Square show was a flop. So he's like, nah, we're going to go back to what we trust. Do shows in Britain and they don't mess up because he knows British boxing fans are basic. You know, Turkey's probably sat at home going, those British fans hated me when I first stepped in the sport. All this sports washing, yeah. Now look at me. I'm good. I'm good in their country. Can walk anywhere in the country and I'll get love. So Turkey knows the resistance from boxing fans is fake. He knows that it's fake. So all you guys that talk tough online, time after time you reveal to be fake, shallow, spineless, hollow. Like I keep saying, we're only talking boxing. I don't know what you like in the rest of your life. But people should just be saying, honestly, I'm just not going to pay for this fight. It's not what I want to see. But then someone's going to ask the question, what would you want instead? That's also a dumb question. Boxing's allowed to have fallow periods, right? And in those fallow periods, we build demand for stars. And when the stars do appear, they get the love. We can't keep just rehashing like uncles and granddads, do you know what I mean? The pensioners being wheeled out. You know, like Kell Brook's probably looking around going, hey, if I can make 154, man, there's some dough there for me. Might rematch Amir Khan. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that doesn't even sound ridiculous now, does it? And that's the era of boxing we're in. So I'll be honest, I'm just, when it comes to Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr., I'm done with it. I'm done with it. It ended the way it needed to end. If you want to watch it again, cool. But like I said, you can't have a boxing conversation with me anymore. Like, I have to be principled in who I give my energy to now. Because if you're not serious about keeping the sport alive 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I can't talk to you anymore. So from a manufactured rivalry, we're going to go to a guy that they call a manufactured fighter. But I disagree with all of this. And this is going to sound contradictory, so you're going to have to listen and just hold the threads together. Jake Paul, in beating Julio Cesar Chavez, who, let's be honest, didn't try. And that's why they chose him, because you don't have to convince Chavez Jr. not to try. So, mate, you want to get paid? Yeah, don't have to box. Am I going to lose? Yeah. Do you care about losing? No. Give me money. Do you know what I mean? And so he got paid. He got paid to basically to become the Brooklyn Brawler. Go and do your WWE Googling and you'll know. He's basically the Brooklyn Brawler right now. Just a guy who lends his name to people, gets stepped over, probably never wanted to box in the first place. And it's like, I can scoop up a bit of money doing this. So, Jake beats him. And what I find beautiful about Jake Paul right now, what makes me smile about him is he's never cared about the mainstream. It's of no interest to him. Jake's thing is, if I can sell this to my fan base, I'll make money. So why do I care about you? Why do I care about 45-year-old Doug sat there in Motherwell? I don't care about him. He can't do anything for my organization or for what I'm trying to do. He doesn't buy Prime. He won't watch me in the wrestling. He doesn't support my brother. He doesn't support KSI. I don't care about these guys. So Jake's built what he's built away from boxing. And look at everyone that's been to his door. Eddie Hearn, please let me promote you guys. You know what I mean? Because Eddie Hearn wanted to get involved with the Paul brothers. I think Frank put Dubois on one of those shows. Like, can we just get Daniel on here? Everyone's wanted to, the Zone even jumped on. Everyone wanted to suckle at the teat that was the Paul brothers and KSI. Yeah, Tommy Fury. Imagine being a Fury and begging these guys for fights. So boxing came to Jake Paul. Why? Because boxing smells money better than anything. Like sharks and blood, boxing and money. Oh yeah, we can get on that. But look at Jake. Jake's like, I want to control the gates. So you can't just come in here. Like, what are you going to do for me? And I love it, because what Jake's then done is he said, if I can sell women's boxing to my fan base, these women can make a living. That's honorable, by the way. For all the talk Joshua does about caring about the sport, for all the talk everyone else has done, no one put their hand in their pocket the way Jake Paul did. No one invested the way Jake Paul did. And these things are all important, because we've got to talk about those who give to the sport. Jake Paul gives to the sport that he doesn't need. And say that again, he doesn't need boxing. Let that sink in. He doesn't need boxing. He doesn't need me. He doesn't need you. He'll make money regardless. So him choosing to put money in the pockets of boxers like Ellie Scotney, who are going to get career high paydays, applaud that. But we should just look at how sad boxing's been that it's had to go to him. Yeah. And beg to unfasten his trousers. And beg to pull them down. And beg to be first in the queue. That's where boxing's going. And it's down to those people who don't see it. And they only care about, You know, it's a day out for me in September. Yeah. Have a sniff, have a sip. Hey, happy days. Yeah? But where's your sport going to be in 10 years' time? You'd have moved on to something else, be doing high rocks or something stupid, right? But Jake's doing what Jake does, and I can't knock that. Now, look, boxing came to him. They ranked him. He's ranked. He can fight for a world title now. He is ranked. Because the sanctioning bodies are like, we need some of that Jake Paul money. These other guys ain't delivering. We ain't got that Wilder money like we used to. That Joshua money's not hitting like it used to. No one cares about Usyk. No one cares about Dubois really outside of the UK. And I don't say that because I dislike Daniel. I'm just saying, you know, you go to America, they're like, who's that guy? Playing the NBA, playing the NFL. We don't have the big fight revenue coming in. So the governing bodies are like, look, we got to spread our risk, man. Let's go and get some of that Jake Paul cash. And boxing will allow it. So the sanctioning bodies will be on their knees too. Hopefully no teeth involved, but they'll be on their knees too. And this is where boxing is at. I'll say it again. I like what Jake Paul's done. He's come in and said, boxing ain't going to tell me what to do. And now he's telling boxing what to do. I respect that. And that is different from Eubank Ben, because it's not like Eubank and Ben scuttled off somewhere and said, let's just do a show ourselves. Wish I would have respected that, and I would have been supportive of a number 2, because that's a completely different story. But they're just feeding me what's been fed numerous times. Let's get a first fight. Let's get a second fight. If we can get a third out of it, let's get a third fight. For no other reason than it's just going to sell tickets without having to worry about developing fighters. And yes, it doesn't hurt you today. But in about 6 or 7 years, it's going to really, really hurt you. So on that Jake Paul card was Zudo Ramirez, right? One of Golden Boy's top fighters. Zudo Ramirez just pawned him off to Jake Paul for some quick money. Just for some quick money. Imagine being a world champion and you're undercarding a Jake Paul event. That lets you know how much boxing cares about you. So Zordo Ramirez is clearly trying to, angle his way in for a Jake Paul fight, but I don't think Jake will touch him because Ramirez doesn't do numbers anywhere. Badu Jack doesn't do numbers anywhere. The fight that would make sense for Jake Paul, but I don't think it would happen because Chris Billum Smith wouldn't show up to lie down. But it would be someone like a Billum Smith. You don't really need a title for that kind of fight. If he wanted to test himself, that's what he would do. He'd jump in with a guy like that. Very quiet when it comes to guys like Opataya, though, isn't he? Very interesting that Opataya's name will not get mentioned, but Opataya's got the name, and he brings the whole country with him. That will test Jake's bravery, but I don't even expect him to do that. Why should he when mainstream boxers are ducking? But we're just in that interesting space now, aren't we, where we're realizing how lazy boxers have been, how lazy managers have been, how lazy promoters have been at trying to grow fighters. They always say we build stars, and now we're looking for stars that they've built and we can't find any. And this is also on boxers. Like, if you're not being promoted, go and promote yourself. But they're too egotistical. I don't want to do something and it not work. Like, that's not how they got good at boxing. Do you know what I mean? It's all ridiculous. But boxing's just in a silly space. You've seen Matchroom do the rebrand ahead of Harlem Eubank versus Jack Cattrall, which, as much as I want to say is a fight no one cares about, I'm happy for Harlem Eubank. Like, Harlem Eubank was a young kid who not that long ago, maybe 9-10 years ago, was jumping in the ring with guys like Conor Vian for like a novice title at York Hall. That was Harlem Eubank boxing at 69 kilos. So he's crawled his way up to main event status. People don't even applaud that online. I thought that's what people wanted to see. Someone doing it the right way, but don't even get the applause. Now he's fighting Jack Cattrall, and no one's asking the question, how's Jack fallen from going for undisputed to supposedly fighting a guy that came up in the small halls? That's Matchroom, right? We build stars. we only want to deal with the guys who can main event. And that's what they've done with Jack Catterall. And people say, oh, Jack did it to himself. Maybe. But less talented people have achieved more with the right management and promotion. Let's not forget that. But I liked the rebrand. I thought it was a bit of an own goal having Eddie Hearn do the voiceover, like pay someone who's got a reasonably good voice. Like Hearn just talks. Like, remember, Hearn's got no communication skills. So he's got no ability to use his voice as an instrument. He's got no ability to use his voice to get emotion out of people. He just talks. And he thinks him talking is enough. So I was watching that and his voice was grating because it wasn't matching the visuals. And the visuals weren't really making a lot of sense. But I like the logo. I'm not going to lie. I do like the logo. I feel they're joining the end of that trend, that kind of minimalist trend. And I think logos are going to go back to being maximalist again. So they're going to need to rebrand in about a year's time, is what I would say. But I like the fact that they're trying something. So tip of the hat off to them for trying that. That card on Saturday, debut of Leo Atang. Talked about him a lot on here. We're going to find out a lot pretty soon. My own opinion, debut's too early. There's always this rush to capitalize. Got to capitalize on what? On what? Leo Atang is a kid that a handful of people in boxing know because he's talented, and a couple of podcasts, mainly me, have been banging the drum for the last probably 3 or 4 years. I do find it interesting that everyone's now on his nuts. Like everyone's, got an exclusive with Leo Atang. I'm like, okay. Because there were people sniffing around, and this is how you know the pod gets everywhere, because people are suddenly just sniffing around him going, oh mate, can we do something? Can we do something? And I'm happy for the kid. I want him to enjoy that debut. I want him to have that moment under the lights where people can go, wow, we got a new one here. I just want these kids to do their development right. And we're going to come on to that in a sec. I want them to do their development right. I feel the same about Pat Brown. Like, I don't want to see videos of Pat Brown running 30 meters. I don't want any of that. I want to see Pat Brown develop. I want us to build a boxer where you're like, he could fight Jai Oppatai and be a threat to him. Right now, he's basically just a tall caveman from Manchester, right? And he's going to be trained by people who know how to build tall cavemen from Manchester. The problem with tall cavemen in general is they don't tend to win a lot of world titles. Because you got to learn how to fashion the wheel and use the wheel to make life easier. And they're training him to make a wheel with 4 corners right now. That's what that team do. They train you to have 4 corner wheels. Didn't Cameron Vong just leave there? Because he was like, I'm tired of trying to drive this car with 4 square wheels. Do you know what I mean? Like, not even a hexagon or octagon. Like 4 square wheels. Yeah. And knowing them, the spare tire is probably like dodecahedron or something. Do you know what I mean? So I just look at that and I just go, nah, we're doing it all wrong. All of these kids, knowing how GB works, knowing how our amateur system is, all of these kids need at least a year in a tough, high-performance environment before they can make a debut. Because it's all coming apart. Like, no one's learning. It comes apart. We're going to talk about the Alfie Warren show next. But I just want to make this point. Protect Leo Atang, because we ain't got many Leos left in the cupboard. If we screw up this generation, there ain't nothing behind. See? So all you high IQ boxing experts who talk all this, you don't even talk about that. After Leo Atang, there is nothing. Cupboard is bare, empty, zip. Why don't we talk about that? Because you want to be entertained with really basic fights, huh? Okay, cool. So let's talk about... Actually, I'm going to lump together the Izzy show and the Alfie show. I'm going to start with Alf, because Alf's always good to me. So first thing, credit to Alf. Like, I know a lot of fights fell out, right? And, you know, nothing you can do at that point. But still held together a really good card. And for certain fights, it was unbelievably busy. So let's start with the winners of the night, like people who I think enhanced their reputation. Masood Abdullah. Yeah. You got to give Stevie Broughton credit, man, because a lot of times people say, we don't know this Stevie Broughton. Oh, he's just a PT that got into boxing. I've known Steve for 9.5 years. It'll be 10 years in December. And a lot of what I achieved in kind of the first few years I was podcasting was down to him. So I'll always have a respectful energy towards him. But you see what he's done with Maz? He's created a guy in Maz who boxes to his strengths. Maz isn't going to be a box, slip, dip, roll, blah, blah, blah. Maz is going to be a guy that just needs to get in position and let off hurtful shots. Do it again and again and again and again till the dude collapses. Hopefully in a good way. And you saw that. I was watching round after round. I was watching with Andy Power and his son. I just said, Maz just has to keep going to the body. Like the way he was always looking for that left hook to the body. Broke the opponent's spirit. I can't remember the name right now. It was a Mexican guy. So you thought he'd be able to take those. Yeah, Maz just broke him down. And it's one of the Box Academy streams. It's worth watching. It's a really good fight. Probably not after I've just told you all the detail, but I thought it was good. If I was nagging, didn't probably throw enough right hooks or try and get the hook in the middle enough. Because sometimes you just want to just mix up that target zone so they don't know where it's coming from. But those shots were nasty. And I like the fact that what he does in the ring mirrors his ring personality. Like he wants to do that, and he's worked out really good ways of doing that. And, respect to Stevie Broughton for doing that. Because if you look at Steve's fighters, they don't all box the same way. But they kind of box in line with their personalities, which I think makes fighting a lot easier. So kudos to him. I think at feather or super feather, he'll cause problems. Depending on what he was like at the weight. Him jumping in with Yusuf Kamari, why not? Those sorts of fights where no one's looking to get to the ropes. There'll be good fights for him. Thought Zach Chelli did really well against Adam Heppel. Is it Heppel or Heppy? We'll say Heppel. But how tough is Adam Heppel, man? One of Sunderland's own. Just tough as you like. Zach went to town. Initially, I thought Zach was caught between how he wants to fight and how he should fight. So people tell Zach Chelli that he's a boxer. He's not. Zach Chelli is the guy that just punches you a lot. And eventually he breaks you down. And I just felt through the fight, there were too many gaps between that. And I think if he shortens the gaps between the work that he does, people aren't going to be able to live with him because he's got the fitness and he's got the toughness to do it. I think he just needs more belief. And more importantly, what Zach Chelli needs is just stability. Have the same trainer for 2 or 3 years that he trusts and will do anything that's asked of him. And I think he'll be good. So now he wins the English title and he's in that mix. So where do you put him? That's a good question. Where do you put him? Do you put him in with a Dan Aziz? Probably not. Like Dan's not going to want to be boxing at that kind of entry-level British type situation. That's not what Dan really wants right now. So you're looking for someone who's equally as hungry, and you're kind of leaning towards an Ezra Taylor type situation, because I think that should be relatively easy to make as well. I'd quite like to see that fight, actually. So you'd have Zach, who's as accomplished as you're going to get as an amateur, did a lot. Just unfortunate to be in the same intake as guys like Lewis Richardson and Ben Whittaker. So they all had to kind of share the glory. And you got Ezra, who's got all the buzz behind him, but doesn't have that foundation. So it's okay, what can happen here? I think that'd be a really good fight, actually. Do you make that for the British next? Don't know. But would definitely love to see that. And let me say this again. I just want to say, thought it was a good event by Alfie. And I like Alfie as a promoter because he looks like he enjoys the events himself. And that's always a good sign. Good to see Sonny as well. Just those really good people there. Ben Harmsworth. Looking very presidential as he always does at these sorts of shows. We're lucky in the southern area council to have Ben Harmsworth. I like him because he's still plugged into the sport, and he's not just plugged into the sport as like an old head. He knows what's coming down the line from a tech perspective and all that sort of stuff. So he's super clued in. If Robert Smith were to ever step down, Ben Harmsworth will get my vote. But it was good to see him. Just loads of people I got to see, and I'm probably going to forget names because I'm just going off the top right now. But we've got to talk about the dark side. And I'm not saying this because I want to dig anyone out. I'm saying this because I like Alf. And sometimes I feel part of my job is to protect Alf from people just using his platform. And I've said this about Steve Goodwin's shows as well. People should be on there, not just trying to sell tickets and get paid, but they should be like, after 5 fights at this level, people should be saying, I'm way too big for this. Right? I don't see enough people doing that, for a start. That's the first thing I'd say. I don't see enough boxers out there shaking hands, kissing babies. There are a couple who should have been there on Friday, even though their fights got cancelled. They should have been there, adding a bit of gravitas to the event, maybe do a bit of comms. Can we just touch on the comms? I don't know October Red, and I'm not here to ruin no one's business. I'm speaking as someone who watched her performance on comms. You can't have that on a broadcast. And I'm going to give you an example. First fight, Jack Oliphant is fighting, I think he's fighting a guy from the Czech Republic. I've probably got my names mixed up here. And in the first round, she says this: he's just here to get paid. Now, the reason I have an issue with that is, imagine you're trying to convince people to watch more of these shows. If I tell you a guy's here to get paid, you know he's going through the motions. Would you not go and make a coffee, go and order a pizza, and come back when it's serious? So she says that. And not long after she says that, the journeyman flattens Jack Oliphant. Okay? In the post-fight, one of the other co-commentators goes, well, you know, wow, he really came to make a point, to prove a point. And then October Red's like, yeah, I said that earlier. I was like, no. What you said was he came here to get paid. They see, as an audience, we're listening. And at that point, this is the first fight. Her credibility's shot. Now I know she's literally just playing catchphrase bingo. Yeah? She did it with Elliot Elamassi's fight, which we'll come on to. And she was like, within 3 seconds, he's looking loose, relaxed, focused. I'm like, no, it's 3 seconds. He's barely just got to the middle of the ring. We're not there yet. Like you save that one for the second round. You just burnt through one of your lines. And then there was a point in there. And I can't remember the guy that... God, I can't remember the kid that Elliot fought. And I should have remembered him because I was looking at his name just now. But the guy comes in. And he hasn't done anything apart from throw probably a jab or two. And so she's like, yeah, you know when these opponents are awkward. I'm like, he threw jabs. What's awkward about that? Like, it's not like he's doing handstands. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's not doing backflips in the ring. He's not hard to hit. He's in front of him. He's not being awkward. He's boxing. But when you put someone in, I get it, you got to get experience somewhere. But I think to get experience, you got to know about boxing. You have to know about boxing in depth. It can't just be, you watched some boxing. Oh, you grew up. No, I don't want to hear that crap. Comms are important because comms tell people how to think and feel. And actually, comms are a way that people get into the sport and understand the sport. So if you're feeding misinformation, it's dangerous. You can alienate your fans because you can make your fans look stupid. So I'm just saying this. If you need to get somebody with a media background to do the comms and to anchor it, phone Brooke Stretfield. Get Brooke there. You ain't got to worry about nothing. You ain't got to worry about depth of knowledge. You ain't got to worry about a damn thing. Put Brooke in the middle and put anyone either side of her. She will hold it down for you. How has she not got the gig? Like, Brooke is credible. Like, no one's going to look at Brooke and go, what's she doing in that role? With October Red, and like I said, I don't know October Red. We've never spoken. But I wasn't impressed. And I think, like, when you're trying to level up a broadcast product, that comms bit is what's going to drive your comment section, especially if you're on, like, YouTube, right? Because that's going to drive how many people the stream is shown to. You want the right person there to drive the engagement, to get the feelings, to get the significance down. That's what you want. I also felt some of the comms around, Elliot's stoppage were not what they needed to be considering the situation, but that's for another time. The thing I do want to talk about is there were 3 fights I saw. A couple I had to watch back because I got there a little too late to get the full detail. Jack Oliphant, Elliot Elimasi, Alfie Gaskin. Okay. Jack, a lot of talk about him. I remember the amateurs, people would talk him up. He might D-box some rumbles, someone like that. That's twice he's been done in the first round. You can't bring him back. Do you know what I mean? You can't bring him back at that point. Like, that's the point where you're like, enough for you, man. Enough for you, Manolo. Do you know what I mean? It's just stop. Like, if Mick Carney was still alive now, Mick would have looked at Alf and just shook his head and gone, nah, don't let him box again. It's not for you. Yeah? If you're getting done in the first round by guys who are non-punchers, it ain't for you. Okay? Alfie Gaskin. What's Alfie Gaskin going to win? I've got nothing against Alfie Gaskin. Nice kid. But you're 8 fights into your career. I don't think you've hurt anyone. He fought a kid. Was a kid called Manish. He fought this Indian kid. The Indian kid was like, how am I going to make this Alfie Gaskin kid look good? Like, he was struggling. He's like, mate, I've turned the knob all the way down to 1. I can't get any lower than this. And you're still making it easy for me. And that Alfie Gaskin, look, God bless his soul. He's enthusiastic, but he's got no power. No power and the speed. And I was watching all the Peacock lot, and they were just really, really hyping him up, gassing him up. And I was like, you're going to get your mate like really badly hurt one day. Because he has nothing to keep good opponents off him. And I get this, he's an honest pro, let him do his thing. I think there are times you've got to talk to people and say, what can you do different? Honestly, if we gave you unlimited resources, what would you do different? I'm almost tempted to say to Alfie Gaskin, look, there's an exemption, mate. Go and take some steroids. That's how I felt watching that. I was like, if I have to watch you fight, I'd be okay with you taking drugs. Because you need something. And I'm not going to blame the Peacock for that, because I just think sometimes what you're born with is what you're born with. And he just wasn't born with them type 2As. Do you know what I mean? He just wasn't. And I'm not going to knock the Peacock for that one, because I feel, considering who and what he is, they did a good enough job. And credit to Martin Bowers, actually. Because you think what Martin Bowers has achieved in boxing, he didn't need to be in that corner. But as I said on the night, he does that because he genuinely loves the game. I know people will think, oh, you're anti-Peacock. No, I'm not anti-Peacock. I'm a Peacock realist. I know it's not the best gym in the country. It's not the best gym in London. And I also believe it's not staffed by the best coaches in London. That is just my opinion. That's not me saying anything bad about Martin Bowers. I like the fact that he will corner everybody. Do you know what I mean? I will respect that about him. He will corner everybody. Because he loves the game. And when you love the game, I can't say anything bad about you. But I can say, look, we have a Premier League table every season. Brentford are 8th, cool. Chelsea aren't. But Brentford are still making a good living in the Premier League. Martin Bowers is making a good living in boxing. My whole point was, people talk about the Peacock gym like it's Liverpool, when in reality it's probably closer to Brentford or Brighton. That was my point. And a lot of boxers don't realize that until they go, why am I struggling to get into Europe? And so, well, look at where you are. That's not being disrespectful, in my opinion. It's being fair. But no, I was like, fair play to Martin. He didn't have to do that, and he did. And he was also one of the smart people who was wearing shorts because it was boiling in there. Good to see Adrian Martin cornering now. I think if he can hold it together, he'll be a good trainer in the future. He's a smart guy. No, you know, when it comes to all this kind of the boxing and the physical stuff, he's a smart guy, man. He'll do all right if he holds it together. But let's talk about Elliot. And the reason I want to talk about Elliot is Elliot's a case study I can speak to in great depth. So Elliot Elamasi gets stopped. I don't even know who the guy was. I think the guy was like 5-0 or something, but he got stopped. And it was heartbreaking for me to watch him get stopped. And he got stopped badly. Like, you can get stopped and you're like, he got knocked out. And just a side note, whoever was in his corner that threw him back in the ring unconscious, can the board do something about that? Whoever's listening from the board, go back and watch what happens when Elliot falls out the ring. It's not even like, let me catch him, but pushed him back in the ring. He's unconscious. Like, you're not taught to do that, by the way. But for me, that counts as misconduct because that could have made the situation a lot worse. But this is, he'll come on to my point. So Elliot's a kid I had at the lodge. And I think if you go back to 2018, about that time, Elliot was just one of the kids in the gym. Okay, floated about, did this, did that. Was a big enough kid. He was 75, made 75 easy. Big enough kid, you could put him in and have a little spar and a move around. But I'd look at him and go, he ain't serious. That's how I felt about him. He's not serious, but he liked being in the gym, and sometimes that's important. So he liked being in the gym, he liked sparring and so on and so forth. But he was lazy. This is what I said at the time. I'll be real, he was. That was my view at the time, and I spoke to him. Because I don't believe you should criticize someone, you should try and help them. And I spoke to him and I said, look, what do you want to do here? And my reasoning was simple. I didn't want him bringing the average standard of a training session down, right? In Amazon, they call them, you bring in bar raisers. Guys that come into your gym and the average of your gym goes up. That's all you ever want in your gym. That's how you get better. And so I spoke to Elliot. And I was like, you're born with some of the physical gifts people would give their right arm for. And you're coming into this gym and you're just going through the motions. And I said, I know in your head, you think what you're doing is 100% because you're sweating and you're a little bit tired. But I get the feeling with you that you'd sooner do 5% less than 5% more. I was like, you see the guys you hang around with right now? I don't know if they will do 5% less or 5% more because I drag them to do 5% more. And I was like, you've got a choice to make. Whether it's here or another gym, do you want to give 5% less or 5% more? And he hesitated in that answer. So I knew, at that point, I knew I had to drag him to the place where the others were going. And I had to be unforgiving in that. And so I stopped being nice to him and I said, right, here's what I expect of you. Do it or fuck off. And we worked and we worked and we worked. Then the pandemic happened and we lost him to Islington. But he still had Simon there. So a lot of that carried on. That mindset of you've got to drag Elliot to where you need him to be. Because his instinct is to default downwards, not upwards. And you can't change that in adulthood. Like you're one way or the other. That dark place either scares you or entices you. You can't change that in adulthood, by the way. So he's there with Simon. That's when you see Elliot doing all right? Because we kind of all know how to look after Elliot. Okay? Does well in the ABAs, etc., etc. Does well. Like the physical gifts, the technical development, and the kind of improved attitude of being in an environment that's taxing you every week yielded results. Okay? So amateur career, big tick. Then I hear he wants to go pro. And I was asked by promoters, what's he like? And I said, you're going to have to manage him really, really tight. Like, you have to drag him to places he doesn't want to go. But when you put him in those places, he will grow. Okay? That was my advice. If you're going to have Elliot, you have to, whether it's selling tickets, whether it's in the gym, whether it's learning his technical stuff, you've got to drag him to a place because he doesn't know what that place is. He can get there and he can survive there, but he won't know how to get there off his own back. So I was like, you have to drag him there. And so when Elliot turned pro, I remember I sent him a voice note and I said, before you do anything, see, this one of T's true boxing stories. I said, before you do anything, go and see Clinton Woods. You're a light heavyweight. He's a light heavyweight. He's one of the best light heavyweights we've ever had. I said, you got to find him or you got to find Dennis Andrews. Okay? You go to them, wherever they are, you buy them lunch. You say, listen, it's on me for today. I need you for about 2 or 3 hours. And you pick the brain. How did you train? What was the adaptation from am to pro? What was the adaptation from your first 5 fights to your 20th, to your 30th? What's that bridge? What do you think makes the difference? I mean, where young fighters, I said, go and pick his brain because that's going to give you the blueprint for what you want to do. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Okay. There were other things I said around, make sure your setup is right. Gotta give people good advice. Make sure your setup's right. Find an environment that scares you. If the environment doesn't scare you, you're not going to grow. That's what I said to him. So to summarize, none of that ever happened. Okay? None of that ever happened. The only boxer who's heeded my advice about this was JP. Courtney didn't. He didn't. He didn't listen to me. And there are others who didn't listen to me. Yeah, loads of televised guys didn't listen to me. And then you saw what happened to their careers. A lot of guys don't have belts now because they didn't listen to me. So Elliot getting stopped this early in his career would have been completely avoided had he listened to me, because he'd have made completely different decisions around who trains him, where he's trained, and what environment he places himself in. There would have been no other option. And I don't know who the TW1 boxing guys are. I'm not going to disrespect them because I am sure they're doing the best that they can. But here's the reality. When you take on a fighter, you fall in love with what he can become. Yeah, like a relationship. Let's say you end up with the most attractive woman you know. Like when I was young, most of the young white dudes I knew used to want to have Lucy Pinder. I wonder what she's doing now, actually. That'd be interesting. But they wanted Lucy Pinder, right? Now imagine having Lucy Pinder. First thing you're going to do is shit the bed because you're like, I'm going to lose her. And trainers are like this. So trainers don't do what they want to do because they're like, what if he leaves? Now I'm stuck. I ain't got a pot to piss in. And I think that happened with Elliot because I saw a couple of his fights and I was there. I was like, yeah, red flags already. There were just red flags already. Whether it's the crispness of the jab, whether it's the decision making. If you saw his last fight, the inability to throw a punch straight with the right hand. Okay? These are all things we worked on and things that became weapons for him. Where it's like, mate, just throw, you've got long arms, throw it dead straight and just see how different the fight will be for you. But it looks like he's been allowed to do whatever he wants to do in that gym. That's one thing. The second thing is, when the pressure came on, he reverted back to the guy I spoke to in late 2018 about, if you've got an option of doing more, doing less, you do less. Why? And he started to do less in that fight. And I'm not saying this because I want to rip into him. I love Elliot. I think Elliot's a class act. He's a lovely kid. But you have to love getting better. You have to love your craft. And you have to obsess about perfecting your craft. Get it nailed. The small details. Watch your fight back. Oh, I didn't throw a straight right. Why? I didn't go to the body. Why? Let me go work on that now. Or your coaches should be driving you that way. Like, yo, you didn't do this. Why? You can't be in my gym if you're not adhering to the bare minimum standards. Like, what the hell? Who do you think you are? These are the conversations that don't happen enough in boxing gyms, by the way. So I like Don Charles, because he'll have that conversation with you. But here's the thing that worried me more. When the people in your photographs change quickly in a short space of time, I know your career is about to fall off a cliff. I look at fighters I enjoy watching, Denzel Bentley, still the same people in the photograph. Ike's Grafter, all these people, Martin Bowers is there, Ed the Shed is there. You know, more recently, the Fail brothers are there. Dan Aziz is still there. Denzel hasn't changed. He's got the same people around him. That stability's allowed him to grow. Because he can trust the stuff coming from all the people around him. Because they were there before the titles kicked in. I don't think Dan was the same. And Dan might pull me up and go, no, come on, man. But I feel the same with Dan. I feel the people in the pictures with Dan are different now. And that worried me. But with Elliot, it happened so quick. I wasn't seeing his cousin Richie. And I know Richie, you know what I mean? Richie's a hard taskmaster. So when you got Richie around you, I know hard work's getting done. I started to see less of Richie. I started to see less of the people. I wasn't seeing Mo, and I wasn't seeing Tyrese. I wasn't seeing people in the pictures that used to be in the pictures. Now I'm seeing these new faces. And they're not faces I know. So I already know that the standard's not being maintained. That was a red flag to me. But they don't listen. So you have to let things like this happen. And I imagine Elliot still won't listen. He won't pick up the phone. And I have to be okay with that. But he will find his own way in the sport. Because when that happens to you, you've either got to pack it in or you've got to get 5 times better. What's scary is the different probabilities of the two outcomes. But like I said, I feel for Alf, because Alf's like, I'm giving you guys a platform. Like, what more do you want me to do? Because if I'm Alfie Warren right now, I'm like, what the fuck is going on in these gyms? He's giving me these deadbeats. What? What are you not doing in these gyms? If I was Alf, I'd be reading the riot act. I'd say, listen, I don't want you on my shows no more. I may as well just go and get Smoking Joe Mullender back. Tom Baker. I mean, let's go and get those guys back. Let's get Aaron Arif back. Get Danny Connor back. If I'm going to get these kinds of performances. And look, I did the episode before about the lost generation, and Elliot's definitely part of that lost generation. A few of them are. But once you know that you are, it's on your shoulders to fix that. I'm going to now bring up Adrian King. But I think Adrian King's a different story. I think Curtis tried to teach him to run before he taught him to walk. And I know Kurt's going to message me, go, no, I don't agree with you. Sorry, Kurt, I'm just going to speak from the heart now. When I watched Adrian King box, everything he did was textbook. But everything he did was wrong. I know that doesn't make sense, does it? So everything he did was textbook. You can watch what he does with Curtis on the pads, and you can see that being done in the ring. The problem with that is you're basically just doing what Curtis taught you. You're not doing what Adrian King wants to do. So you haven't had time to internalize all the teachings in order for you to see them as tools that you've got all the power in the world to use any way that you want. Because as much as Dave Caldwell was glazing a bit, like he definitely was on the when it came to Adrian King, and I don't know if he had seen him that many times to be glazing like that. There is something there, right? There is something there. Like, I don't think the other heavyweights that Curtis was mentioning in the same breath are miles ahead of him. The difference between them and Adrian is they had their whole amateur career to figure out how to turn teachings into tools. Do you see what I mean? There's a very clear process of trial and error that goes into that. That normally happens in the amateurs. Curtis doesn't believe in the amateurs as a development platform. My argument back to Curtis was, in theory, it is. If you set it up right, the AMs are perfect for you because you make loads of mistakes. Adrian made mistakes in this fight that you would have made in the under 10 novices. And you'd have been like, oh, okay, I know what you mean now. So for me, Adrian's mission is for him to take Curtis's teachings and turn them into tools that he has full agency to use intelligently. I don't think we saw that over the weekend, and that's why he lost. And that's what I mean by saying everything was textbook, but everything was wrong. And Kurt probably tried his best. And that's why it's hard sometimes to hammer trainers. Because I think the guy's got tools. So you're like, oh, Curtis has done all right here. But Adrian's not in a position where he looks confident of being in the ring and being able to be him in the ring. I don't think we know who Adrian King is in that ring yet. We did with Joshua. We knew who Joshua was. We knew who Wilder was. They weren't necessarily the greatest technicians. We knew who they were. We knew who Fury was. Why? They had at least 30 to 40 fights in the amateurs to figure that out. Now, Curtis's challenge is, how do you get Adrian to figure that out when you don't believe in the amateur system and it's too late to go back? That's his big challenge. It's not impossible. It's a big challenge. It's one of those where you've just got to throw him into camps. Peter, you need someone for Huey? Go. Don, you need someone for Daniel? Go. Usyk, you need someone? Here you go. Hergovich, you need someone? Here you go. Sonny Dakers, we're sending him down here for a week. You've got to do that now until you can see him just being autonomous in that ring. You're like, okay, he's making good decisions. He's taken what I gave him and made more of it than I could have even imagined. Now you're like, cool, we got something here. We're just not there yet. But, you know, I just wanted to say that because Kurt and I go back and forth over whether the AMs are the place to do it. But my question to him was always, where are you going to make your mistakes? You don't want to make them on the zone. Would be my argument. That's my argument. So yeah, here I am, like 7 kilos lighter from sweating. And guys, I hope you enjoyed this. This has been a bit kind of like a from the heart episode. There's just stuff I had to get off my chest today. It's been bubbling in there for a few days. You know, the stuff in the basement. Hey, Rock, tell me about the stuff in the basement. It's just so hard. Sorry. Let me go on that now. Say take care, guys.
Hope you've enjoyed the video. Terry's Take 125. Pop, pop, bang. Peace out.